Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this special video interview. I'm Drew Clark with Broadband Breakfast. I'm here to talk with Andrew Semenak about Pinpoint Capital Advisors. Andrew, welcome to this discussion and glad to have you with us.
Hey, Drew, thanks so much. It's great to be here with you.
Andrew, tell us a little bit about Pinpoint Capital Advisors. We were very pleased to have you at Digital Infrastructure Investment earlier this year in May in Houston, but tell us more about who you are and what you do exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Andrew Semenak, Managing Director at Pinpoint Capital Advisors. Pinpoint is a boutique investment bank focused on advising on transactions and raising capital for small and mid-market companies in the digital infrastructure space, Drew. And we defined digital infrastructure, communications infrastructure as fiber, wireless towers, DAS, small cell, and data centers. And so we're raising capital for companies in those sectors, typically small to mid-market. So companies with enterprise value anywhere from 25 million all the way up to several $100 million. And when we're raising capital for them, we're raising it from longer-term, lower-cost institutional investors like infrastructure funds, some private equity, family offices, small mid-market pension plans, institutions that really have an interest in digital infrastructure these days.
And you are keen to kind of define it in some ways the way we certainly did at Digital Infrastructure Investment: fiber plus wireless towers and wireless DAS and data centers. How do those interact? How does the fiber and the towers and the data centers kind of come together in practice on the operational end, or as you kind of explore valuations and financing options?
It's funny, Drew, when we first started focusing, Pinpoint's about 12 years old. We've been growing ever since. And when we first started out in digital infrastructure, those sectors were all sort of separate, well-defined sectors onto their own. And it's funny how recently, real convergence has taken hold where they're really interconnected. Fiber, for instance, is so critical to a tower and wireless tower site for backhaul purposes. Data centers need very significant interconnectivity, and fiber is providing that. We started to talk about data centers, small data centers at the tower site. That hasn't happened yet, but there's a lot of talk about it. So these 2 or 3 or 4 subsectors are really beginning to converge. We're seeing that now, and you're seeing the investment community start to focus on it. Large investors like DigitalBridge making investments in each of these sectors and trying to bring a suite of services to their clients.
Has Pinpoint worked in the space with other utilities and other infrastructure, or is your focus kind of for your 12 years always been sort of broadband telecommunications as we've now talked about these sectors converging?
My background actually before launching Pinpoint, Drew, was as a senior investment banker with Macquarie, a well-known infrastructure investment bank. So I'm well aware of infrastructure and all the other sectors within infrastructure. And while digital infrastructure has a lot of the same asset characteristics and investment characteristics, they're different. And so we try to really stick to our knitting. We're ultra focused. We're a small group, and we're ultra focused on digital infrastructure.
Well, and we could take a long tangent and detour to talk about Macquarie. I mean, I first heard of them nine years ago when they were interested in a telecom project in the United States. Of course, they came from a strong physical infrastructure, and they've done lots of tollways and so forth. So in terms of your own background and what you've taken from that, Andrew, I mean, is there lessons to be learned though from the hard assets? As not that there aren't hard assets in fiber and towers and data center, but there's a real value to that connectivity above and beyond kind of the physical concrete. Any lessons from that sort of one infrastructure into the digital infrastructure?
I think lots of lessons, and I think you're seeing, the institutional investor community really focused on digital infrastructure exactly for that reason, because there are so many common elements between digital infrastructure and more traditional infrastructure. Fiber is being called, the fourth or the fifth utility now. Highly sticky customers, hard assets, long-term assets, contracted revenues. All those things are infrastructure, asset, and investment characteristics.
So Andrew, when you presented at Digital Infrastructure Investment, our mini conference, you highlighted, in addition to the 12 years of operation, 19 completed deals on 3 continents with a total transaction value of $3 billion. Talk to us a little bit about kind of the life cycle of a deal, and what can you speak about some of those $50 to $60 million and $30 million deals that you have kind of in progress, Andrew?
Yeah, Drew, there's some real exciting things going on. As I mentioned earlier, we're focused exclusively on the small and mid market. So companies that are, $30 million enterprise value, 30, 40, 50 million, and they are growing. They're typically companies that are building out fiber networks or building out towers across the country, and they are starved for capital. And I think what we're doing for them is bringing a whole new investor community with lower cost, longer term, efficient capital that really gives them the ability to efficiently grow out their businesses, and also gives them a highly competitive capital so that they can compete typically with larger, better funded companies. So pretty exciting what's going on now in this space, and the funding of fiber and digital infrastructure. You've got a proliferation of these types of institutional investors who are clamoring for investment opportunities and are looking for the right platforms in which to invest. And we're part of. We're very happy and privileged to be a part of bringing all of that together.
Well, I do want to talk a little about the public investment, but before we go to that, just another word or two about the life cycle. Like if I'm in this target market, if I'm a small mid-sized fiber telecom company, and I go, I need capital to grow. Why would I want to go to Pinpoint Capital Advisors? What would I get from you all that maybe might be a little harder to get from a full-on large scale more traditional, let's say, finance entity?
Yeah, I think what we pride ourselves on is really a deep understanding. Our focus in digital infrastructure, particularly in fiber, we'll do a deep dive into each one of our clients' businesses. We really get to know the business and what drives it, and we pull together a very detailed financial model with forecasts and key assumptions. And then we put together your story, and we take that story out to the market, and we'll reach out to 20 or 25 or 30 institutional investors in a competitive process, and we get them excited about your business, and we get them bidding, and that's how we really get the best structure, pricing, and terms for you as an owner entrepreneur of a small mid-sized digital infrastructure or fiber company. People often will take calls from one or two institutions and race to do a deal we don't recommend that. We recommend a process where you really get to meet folks and you find the right partner, fit. This is almost like a marriage. And it's a partner you're going to have that's going to help you grow your company, and they're likely going to be with you for at least the next 5, 7, 10 years.
Well, those are great points, great selling points, if you will. Let's close out our discussion, Andrew, with a little bit about the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Obviously, the United States legislation that will pour $65 billion into broadband, 42.5 through the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment program. How do you see that impacting the opportunities, let's put it that way, for these mid-sized fiber DAS data center providers? What does that do to their calculations of the private capital they need to raise, as well as the opportunity for public funding?
It's an extraordinary opportunity. All of this government funding that's become available is really becoming a catalyst for accelerating the fiber build across the country into unserved and underserved areas. So it's all extremely positive, Drew. And I think what you're going to see is and I think it's positive for small and mid-market companies who can access some of this, and they're going to access it to perhaps expand into some of these unserved, underserved areas that they wouldn't have thought about expanding into. The government funding is going to help them do that. And I think so from the perspective of an owner entrepreneur, this is a very positive development. It's also a really positive development from the perspective of institutional investors. Our relationships, they love the idea of governments becoming active and providing funding. But this is going to open up so many more projects where institutional investors, owner operators, and the government can work together to build out fiber across the country.
Well, that's awesome. I think I maybe have one last question, Andrew. You're Canadian, aren't you?
I am Canadian.
Yeah.
Funny, yes, I'm Canadian. Our firm's based in Toronto, but we're about 85% of our business is in the U.S. and we're an affiliated broker dealer in the U.S. We raise capital and advise on transactions across the U.S.
Do you see any similarities or differences between the two markets? I mean, is there going to be more interaction between the two countries, or are they just two siloed entities that happen to have a very long border with one another?
Yeah, I think, with respect to fiber and telecoms, there are foreign ownership issues. Canada is a dynamic market as well. It is controlled by a handful of very powerful, very strong telecommunications companies. There's probably not as much competition, but we do see opportunities to build out underserved areas in various parts of Canada. We're focused on it, and we know a number of similar small and mid-sized entrepreneurial companies that are looking to do that. So it's a smaller opportunity, a different one, but it's still something that we focus on.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for being with us and for this the time you've spent. And for our viewers, look for more upcoming events with Andrew and with Pinpoint Capital Advisors. Thank you, and we'll see you next time that we talk. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Drew. Bye-bye.